Welcome to the Witcher Lorecast, the show that explores the vast lore behind the Witcher games, show, and books. Witchers! Welcome back to the Witcher Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. I'm here with my good buddy, Toasty. I forgot to unmute myself again. And that's how this week is going, because we're recording on a Wednesday night instead of Monday night. But we're here. Toasty. I hear you've been staying up late playing D&D a lot.
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Of course. That's how you roll. That's how you roll. Yeah.
I'm waiting for like good video games. So, you know.
Yeah. Good video games. I hear CD Projekt Red had like a session today to talk about Cyberpunk, but not actually the stuff anybody wants to know, like when the DLC is coming or anything. But I didn't check in on that. I didn't know if we were going to get an update on The Witcher 3, like re-release with the update for the new generation of consoles. And I don't know. I didn't see anything on that yet, but we'll have to check that stuff out, I guess, later, because right now we're talking about dwarves.
Yeah, we're talking about dwarves.
We're talking about the little guys, the little ones. These are the ones that you put on your lawn, and they've got the little pointy hat.
Those are gnomes, Tom.
Oh, those are gnomes.
Oh. I don't think you want to put a dwarf on your lawn.
A lawn dwarf?
Yeah. I don't think your lawn would look very good after. I think you're going to mess it up.
That's probably true.
You're a feisty bunch.
That's probably true. I kind of feel like maybe having a lawn dwarf might be a fun thing, because then it would be a point to discuss, you know, when you invite people over. They're like, oh, you've got lawn gnomes. And you're like, no, those are lawn dwarfs. Can't you see the axes?
Or the hammers that are made of like cast iron.
Right.
Hands.
Right.
Fingers.
Right. Yeah, like in the show. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, I love the dwarves in the show. Okay, so where do we start? Where do we start with the dwarves? How are we kicking this off? We talked about where they live last time, them and some other minority races, I guess we could call them, right? But we really didn't get into like the nitty-gritty details about who they are, what makes them unique. Where do we start?
I got a little bit of it's not a bestiary entry. This is a selection from a book you can find in The Witcher 2. Dwarves are one of the elder races, stocky and bearded, with strongly built bodies and low voices. They are distinguished for their height, which is lower than human. What a delightful way of saying that.
Lower. It's lower than human.
Lower than human.
Not lesser, not shorter.
Not shorter. Lower.
Lower.
It was written by a human. Can't you tell?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Of simple and direct manners, they are sometimes seen as grumpy, unkind, and greedy. I have to stress that my own opinion of these dwarves is by no means similar to the latter part. I only cite it here to present the views of other people. Sure guy. Even if they are dull-minded, hate-blinded buffoons.
Oh,
jeez.
Oh, so you don't believe the grumpy, unkind, and greedy part, but you do believe the dull-minded and hate-blinded buffoon part.
Yeah, sure, guy, sure. Mahakam is the dwarves' mountainous homeland, famed for its numerous mines where precious stones and ores are mined. Many dwarves also live in human cities, for that race usually adapts to new neighbors easily, something that cannot be, unfortunately, said about a large part of humanity. Despite vexations, persecution, and even bloody pogroms, the coexistence with dwarves goes a lot better than with elves. Their flair for trade and craft makes them excellent merchants, bankers, smiths, and armorers.
This is interesting. This is a really interesting take. Also, it mentions Mahakam, which is the place we talked about last week. So if you didn't listen to last week's episode, go back and check that out. All right. So they get along better with the humans than the elves do. Obviously, this is, I mean, like you said, this sounds like a very human perspective on dwarves.
Yeah. Oh, you know, they get a little bit of a realization talking about how dwarves can adapt easier.
Yeah.
Which I think, yeah, that's true. We see that. They kind of like meld into society. So that's cool. Of course, dwarves come under the classification of humanoid, subspecies Polvic, which is funny because I I looked this up and it just talked about different types of dwarves.
Like the only use of this word is from the Witcher universe.
I didn't look it up on Google.
I'm gonna take a look right now because I don't know this. I don't know this word. It's a mythological word from Slavic mythology.
Makes sense.
It's field spirits that appeared as deformed creatures with different colored eyes and grass instead of hair. Weird.
Interesting.
It's still not the same as dwarves, though. That's
definitely
so weird.
Definitely not. Languages: common speech and Dwarvish. Locations: Mahakam, human realms in the Northern Kingdoms and Nilfgaardian Empire.
So fairly spread out.
See them all over. Yeah. As for physical characteristics, average lifespan around 200.
So longer than an average human by like more than double.
Yeah. But not quite as long as like elves. So we're kind of like in the middle ground there. Average height by 1 dBH. So this is interesting. So I looked this up. So dBH is a measurement called diameter at breast height. Is a standard method of expressing the diameter of the trunk or bole of a standing tree. dBH is one of the most common dendrometric measurements. Electronic calipers can measure dBH and send measured data online via Bluetooth to a field computer. Tree trunks are measured at the height of an adult's breast, which is defined differently in different countries and situations.
Sure.
But in many countries, dBH is measured at approximately 1.3 meters or 4.3 feet above ground.
Weird.
So it's a very fancy way of saying the dwarves are about 1.3 meters or 4.3 feet tall.
Yeah, 4.3 feet. This is a very scientific method, it seems. Not at all.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Robin Chet says, "How tall are your booba?" Right, they're about booba.
Approximately 1 dBH, Rob. Skin color, white, but I think it varies a little bit, and I'm sure it'll vary even more, kind of as we see different iterations of the game and kind of show that more diverse. I did it.
Diverse
again. Diverse culture.
Words is hard.
I did this last week. I said diverse last week.
That's a word. That's now a word for you.
Yeah, apparently. My brain's just going too fast. Whatever. Hair color varies. Eye color varies. Distinctions: stocky and bearded, robust, and see them most commonly in banking and handicraft.
So if they're not chopping wood or mining ore, then they're probably moving around coin.
Probably. We'll see. Majority we'll see is it's not I can't remember. It's not the Vivaldi Bank, is it?
Is it Vivaldi?
In Novigrad?
The Novigrad Bank, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember. I know there's the banker in Novigrad who's the dwarf. And then, of course, many dwarven merchants. And then we see the master, the master dwarven armorer. So even though he was the one who's a bad guy, he's not a nice guy. He's
kind of a grump. Yeah. And then there are some quest lines that have to do with the bank in Novigrad. So you go talk to that guy a few times, kind of back and forth. I remember that. Yeah.
Or if you need to exchange your currency, which is super helpful.
Yeah. That's what banks do.
So dwarves are short and stocky, generally around the height of a human male's chest.
Your booba, a male booba.
The male booba. They are more sturdy than humans, which makes them tougher and stronger, a key factor that makes them ruthless in combat. They usually grow long beards, which the women are also fully capable of growing.
So this is one of those points that is very, very highly debated in Lord of the Rings circles, is did Tolkien intend for female dwarves to be bearded or not? Because we don't actually get a character in any of the main stories that's a female dwarf with her description of having a beard. But we do have rumors like Gimli's line about how people will mistake them for men, that kind of thing, right? And usually, we've discussed this before, these kinds of fantasy worlds that come post Tolkien tend to be influenced by those writings in that world. So in this writing, it's clearly stated that female dwarves have beards.
Yeah, but they're capable of growing them.
Here's the thing.
I'm assuming that they can shave them if they want to.
I kind of wish that our human females had beards, because not because I want beards on my women, but because it would be really impressive to see all the different things they do with their beard hair. Because we, as men, we tend to be pretty boring when it comes to what we do with our hair, right? But women get really creative with it. Like,
yeah, but some men do.
Some men do
a lot of stuff or whatever.
But it's, I mean, yes, it doesn't mean that some men don't. But on average, the average woman is more creative with her hairstyle than the average male, right? So imagine a bunch of women walking around with beards doing all sorts of cool stuff. Like, they'd come up with stuff that men have never thought about before.
Yeah, fair point.
It would be amazing.
Fair point.
It'd be amazing.
It would be amazing. Female dwarves have a reputation from humans to be extremely unattractive and are generally only desired by male dwarves, despite the males believing otherwise and being very protective of their wives and daughters.
Of course, because they find them attractive. So they're like, well, everybody was after, I got to protect you. Everyone wants to get with you.
Yeah. Well, that's just humans. They just those humans, which are gross, they're gonna discriminate against any race that's not human. So it's nothing new.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I got a little passage from the Baptism of Fire, the Witcher book.
Mm-hmm.
So as written by Andrzej Sapkowski. Dwarves, Milva said under her breath, but they aren't Scoia'tael. They don't have plaited beards. There were 6 of them, dressed in short hooded capes, shimmering with the countless shades of gray and brown, the kind that were usually worn by dwarves in foul weather. Capes like that, as Geralt knew, had the quality of being totally waterproof, which was achieved by the impregnation of wood tar over many years, not to mention dust from the highway and the remains of greasy food. Practical garments passed from fathers to oldest sons. As a result, they were used exclusively by mature dwarves, and a dwarf attains maturity when his beard reaches his waist, which usually occurs at the age of 55.
Right. Well, if you're going to live 200 years, then that's like only a quarter of your lifespan. So it makes sense.
That's about kind of where people see humans reaching maturity.
Right. Like 20s, if an average human, was to reach maturity at, let's say 18, and you multiply that by 4, that's roughly the lifespan of a human. So, yeah. Yeah, so, I like the idea that these are impregnated by the fabric is like infused with tar, and that's what helps make it waterproof, but also greasy food. And dust from the highway, but also greasy food.
Yeah.
Like they don't ever wash them. Like it just has generations of like food that fell out of other dwarves' mouths on it. Like in it. That's great.
You can't wash them, Tom.
Right.
They're waterproof. You can't.
I mean, you could wash anything. I mean, you could wash the outside of it, but like,
why would you do that? Like you're out in the rain,
right?
It washes it off for you. It's fine.
The rain works. That's all you need.
Yeah, the rain does the job for it. That's fine.
Yeah. I love that this also points to the mentality of the dwarves. This idea that like, this is how they work. This is like this very traditional sense. Right. But also that like this is okay. This is just how things are.
I mean, like this, I think even just like with this short of a passage of being like able to represent the fact that, tell us like a little bit about how, dwarf aging works. Tell us just how like rugged they're usually perceived as, or just are in general, and how, I guess, ingenious they are.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I imagine this is their design of like the capes. Because we see
they're inventive.
Geralt, he's got a cloak. That thing is soaked. So like,
yeah.
So it kind of it's a decent passage, and it kind of I know that probably we see I almost said divulgence again or whatever.
Uh-oh. Do I have to hit it? Oh, no. Oh, here comes. There we go. Words is hard.
It's just divergence.
Divergence?
Divergence.
Divulgence? Divergence.
I don't even know. I don't know words, dude. But difference between Andres Kelsey's work and, CD Projekt Red iterations as we move on. So
yeah, there's the book universe, there's the game universe, and then there's the cinematic universe. And I think that's just something that we're just gonna have to be okay with. Like, the more I think about this, and just a side note here in the middle of the show before we move to the middle of the show and the other parts about the dwarves, but there's a lot of people who are like up in arms about the Rings of Power show or representations of this or that in TV and in movies. And the more I think about it, it's like there's never a one-to-one correlation between anything. And that's fine. That's fine. That's just the way it is. So, all right. So why don't we take a break for the mid-break? We're going to thank our patrons. We've got a new review to read out. And then we're going to be back to talk about what, Toasty?
Other stuff.
More
dwarf stuff. We're going to talk more about dwarves.
Sounds like a deal. All right, here we go.
Very well. Let us get this over with. Something has infested my vineyard.
Mm-hmm. Great. Let me go prepare my something oil then.
So first of all, welcome to our new chatters. We've got some new people popping up in chat tonight. Thank you for joining us. I hope you guys are enjoying this episode of the Witcher Lorecast. Thank you for joining me on the Twitch channel. This is something I've been talking up on other shows as well. If you'd like to come hang out with me during the days or in the evenings, twitch.tv/robotsradio. I'm streaming more regularly now, and this is becoming more of a regular thing. So I'd love for you guys to come and hang out. I've got a goal to hit 100 concurrent viewers by the end of the year, and you guys can help me do that. I think it's possible. I think we can get there. So come hang out with me, twitch.tv/robotsradio. All right, so we're going to thank our patrons. Big shout out to all of our patrons. We don't have any new ones this week, but we have 13 of them currently, including our higher vampires, Ben of Temeria and Bane the Hospital Guy. Thank you so much for your continued support. Oh God. I got to do it for me now. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. But thank you for your continued support. Also, we've got a rating and a review actually to read out. So this one comes from Overlord925 in the US, who gave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much for that. Awesome 5 stars. Absolutely love the podcast. I've been a huge fan of the Witcher series for a long time, and I'm very happy to see it getting the love it deserves. These guys are a delightful bunch and wonderful to listen to. Toasty, when was the last time someone called you delightful?
Never.
Well, first time for everything, I guess, right?
I think, this it's like a general lump, so
like it's both of us together.
It's like a half and half thing. So I'm not even like fully delightful. I'm like only half delightful.
You're only delightful in proxy to being near me.
Quite possibly, yes.
I bring out your delightfulness.
Sure.
Cool. Thanks again to Overlord for the review. If you'd like to leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it out on a future episode of the show if you leave a 5-star rating with it. And you can also rate us on Spotify, which is extremely helpful. Both of these things are very helpful for words are hard for making us more visible out on the internet and stuff. All right, I'm going to stop stammering over reviews. Let's move on with the rest of the show.
You smell of death and destiny, heroics and heartbreak.
It's onion.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it is a big goal, Rob. It's a big goal. I think we can do it. Like, if you look at the size of the audiences across all the shows that I do, that's like a very small number compared to how many people regularly listen to stuff. So I think we could totally make it happen. And it would be awesome to meet everybody and hang out. So I think it would be a lot of fun. All right. So let's talk about the culture of the dwarves.
You were over here. You were over here honed in on that comment. I was over here honed in on you guys are a bunch. like bananas.
Yeah, that's Rob's other comment. Rob, I think we highlight your comments more than anybody else. So we should probably give him a reward.
Rob's here
like an
all the
award,
time.
right? We should give him like a little medallion that he can wear, like most commented chatter.
I'll make him comment more. I could say some stuff to make him comment more, but I'm going to refrain.
Yeah, do that later. Okay,
Yeah.
so
that's for the culture. For religion, dwarves once before humans arrived on the continent worshipped a deity similar to Melitele, in that they worshipped a goddess of harvest and fertility.
but it's not Melitele. It's a different
Not
one.
Melitele. It's a different one. Or sorry, my bad. I should say it like they say it in the show. Melitele.
Melitele.
I hate that so much.
Do you think that was informed by anything, or do you think they just kind of were like, well, this is the way we're going to pronounce it?
I think it's just the way they're, because like, I pronounce it Melitele because of the audiobooks.
Right.
Because
right.
like, I mean, whoever's reading the audiobooks, I don't know, but they are most obviously from Europe. So I'm going to assume that they have a more accurate pronunciation.
It looks
we're
like
Americans, we
that's
don't
how
know
you
anything.
would like Melitele. Melitele. It looks like how you would pronounce it. Like I think I would default to that as well. Melitele. It looks like there should be a dash in the middle.
I would hate that. I just don't like that.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. But whatever. As for technology, dwarves generally wield axes in battle, though they are known to wield cutlasses, crossbows, bows, and martels or warhammers.
Okay, so pretty general stock of weapons.
Yeah. Their mountain fortifications are unparalleled engineering marvels. Thanks to a system of furnaces, boilers, and reinforced gutters, every passage.
This button's getting a workout.
I was just waiting for it. I was like, dang it. Dang it. Every passageway into the fortress can change into a deadly trap in the blink of an eye. While mining and moving minerals in their mini mines, foundries, forges, and ironworks, large carts are used by the dwarves as transport.
So pretty typical when it comes to fantasy dwarves.
Yeah. But, industrial for, them. As for society, throughout the expansion of humans from the first landing, dwarves have integrated into northern society, often peacefully living in large cities such as Novigrad or even small villages. As the racial prejudice grew on the continent in the years following 1263, many chose to join or aid the newly created Scoia'tael, mixing with other non-humans to eventually wipe out the human race. For the violence shown from the Scoia'tael, the human hatred for the dwarves grew stronger, and they often faced persecution for simply existing in the form of violent pogroms from the north around 1267 onwards.
Oof.
I mean, that's typical.
It's typical of the humans being terrible to other races. Yeah. Oh, the more you learn about the Witcher universe, in fact, the more you just play the games, the more that like the common human is just terrible. Like they're just so bad.
Very bad. Very, very bad.
I mean, I guess everybody's bad in some way. I feel like a lot of the dwarves you meet are like grumpy and stubborn, but tend to be good-hearted.
I just feel like they're like pretty chill, honestly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that too.
They're just like there. They're just like doing their thing,
Right.
But like, everyone grows to hate them for some reason or another. I know there's like that. The mission that comes to mind is like in the very first like village in White Orchard, where the dwarf like gets his entire like forge trashed by like some random drunk or whatever, and he gets turned over to the guards, and the dwarf is kind of worried at first because he's like, well, I'm now going to get hated by literally everyone here that's not Nilfgaardian.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I mean, and he didn't even do anything. This dude got drunk and trashed his like means of life, and he turned him in, and he's going to get the hate for it because he turned him in. It's like, That's not deep. I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, so, dwarves arrived on the continent between 3,000 to 4,000 years before the arrival of humans. The meeting between the dwarves and gnomes was peaceful, as the dwarves had no intention of invading and expanding.
Yeah. So, as we see a lot of times, it's the humans who are the ones who brought warfare, division with them, right? Now, I would imagine that we do know about some of the elves doing that as well, but the ones who seem to be on the continent didn't seem as warlike as the ones who are like coming in from other realms in general.
Yeah, they because we saw the example, because we saw these first races came in and like kind of settled and didn't make like problems with each other, because they were just kind of like we like plenty of room here, we go here, you go here, whatever, no big. Elves came in and there was some conflicts, but there wasn't much from it.
Not in the same way that the humans.
Yeah, it was easily resolved,
right?
Conflict,
right.
And then of course, the humans show up, and like typical. Not even. It was just start pulling this into like actual like real world, like with I want to say the Spanish. Is that proper? Yeah, the Spanish. Whenever they come over and or just any of the
like the age of
colonials, basically
colonialization. Yeah.
Came in and just were like, oh, there's people here, but we want it. We want this space.
Right. This is our space now. And we're gonna indoctrinate you with our beliefs and take it from you. Yeah. 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 So it's okay. So another analogy would be like how humans treat food and how dogs treat food. If you raise a dog with an open bowl where you just keep the bowl full of food, the dog eats until it's full and then it stops eating. The dog will not become overweight if you raise it that way. In most cases, it's true. It's true. But for humans, we have a natural tendency to overeat. Like if given open opportunity for food all the time, we will overeat. So it's kind of like the dwarves, and even the elves for the most part. In at least they have the capability of this, right? The gnomes, these other races, tend to have natural limits. It's like they're not. They don't feel this need to conquer and take over and take things from the other races. They just are happy to have their place and be in their place and do their thing. It's the humans on the continent who want to expand and conquer and overwhelm the others. And maybe that's a human thing. It seems like to your point about the age of colonization, it seems kind of like a human trait. That's just what we do, which is unfortunate. Because the dwarves seem freaking cool. Like, in fact, we talked about this a little bit last week. The dwarven characters that we get to know, like the ones that are friends with Geralt, for the most part, they're loyal. They tend to be, good spirited, good natured. They're just good.
Yeah, they most of the time, like, it just seem like they're just like there. Like part of the thing that like was most notable about them is like how easily they can adapt, and they're kind of just like there like to just have like a good time for the most part, or like
they just want to party. They're just party dwarves. Yeah.
How we see examples of that obviously in the show with I don't know how I just forgot his name, even though it was literally in my brain.
The dwarf that shows up in the show, the main one.
Yeah,
it's not Zoltan. It's not Zoltan. It's the other one.
Oh, geez.
Crap! It's out of my brain too.
It starts with a V. Like, I don't know how I just forgot that. That's so bad. No, it doesn't. Yarpen Ziggurin.
Yarpen. It doesn't start with a V.
Yarpen Ziggurin. I was like, I don't know how I lost his name for a second. I'm so ashamed. But yeah, like we see them, and he kind of just like, there's not really a whole lot of like questions asked. Like we think about.
He's kind of a grumpy guy, but like in the end, like he's cool.
Yeah, like I mean, they just ride with Geralt to
all right,
Sintra, and they're just like they go into battle with them, no problem.
They're quick of tongue to like poke back and like make these like jabs. Yeah,
they're smart asses, which is great. I love that. I love that about them.
Right. But they're not like mean. They're just kind of smart asses. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I wonder, that's actually something else, because they don't like, it's not something as touched upon, but like just note that I saw from the show is like how clean their teamwork is with each other.
Coordinated. Like, a certain level of coordination. Yeah, this is another thing that goes all the way back to Tolkien's works with dwarves. This idea that like they are extremely trained. They follow things very, very clearly. That's part of why they're so good at crafting things, is that they're coordinated and they're regimented and they're able to work together very well. They have an ability at that. And I also think that's probably something that comes with living a longer life, is that you get more practice. You get better at coordinating things with other people because you're doing it for longer periods of time. So, yeah. And
I did pull up, because we have the outline on the elves, that they did have conflicts with some of the other races. So they weren't completely
right.
Not to the level of the humans, obviously, because and it says specifically mostly through peaceful means, but there were clashes.
Right. They're kind of like that half point. Right. That half point between the other races and the humans, it seems.
Yeah. So even so much to like steal a Verani city. So they definitely were like, hey, they took over a location, but like humans came in and took over everything else. So
yeah. So that's about it that we have on the dwarves as such. Dwarves just being dwarves. You know what would be really cool is if we had like a dwarf witcher. We don't have any record of that, right? There's none that were dwarves. In
the, I'm not entirely sure, because it's hard to tell, like based on like the animation or whatever. But like in Nightmare of the Wolf, I think that one guy's a dwarf.
Oh,
the one missing an arm.
Yeah, he's kind of stocky. Yeah.
I think he's. I'm fairly certain he's a dwarf, but of course, it's like it's a bit hard to tell, because like the way the characters are like designed, they're all a bit taller than like necessary. Like they're very like tall, lanky boys.
Right. It's got a very particular style to the artwork. Yeah. Right.
But yeah. So, but like as far as the games or like books or anything, no, we don't. So, and we don't even see much of that one guy in the anime, but it would be cool to see more.
Would be cool.
Like
dwarves are pretty cool.
The new game, if you can create a Witcher, if you can do a dwarf Witcher, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Because I think if you think about it, like part of the issue with like making Witchers is like, the effect that the mutagens have on them. And like this whole thing is like telling us like how resilient dwarves are. Like maybe they adhere to the mutagens better just because they can resist it better.
Yeah.
Like,
and think about how coordinated they are. They would like imagine decades. I mean, they already have a long life, so they would have an even longer life. They would be very coordinated. I think they'd be amazing witchers.
And like to have like a new, like kind of like technological enhancement onto like, because I mean, with the way that like they make things and whatnot, like if they could craft like mechanisms and traps,
pistols, like blunderbusses, like a witcher with guns.
I'm fairly certain that there is like a record of that somewhere. Can't remember. I think I've seen something about like witchers using guns, but
that would be freaking cool.
That may or may not be complete bogus or like fan canon. So don't.
Ben says the Crane School.
Is Crane School? Okay, I wanted to say the Crane School, but I wasn't entirely sure. I was like, I'm trying to think. I was like, was it actually pistols or was it crossbows? I mean, I'm getting them confused.
Yeah,
we don't know a lot about the Crane School. They're very like mentioned, and that's it. And that's like they use pistols.
Yeah, so skilled in both swords and early guns, the Cranes proved to be the best remedy to monsters of the air and sea. And we talked about them. Yeah, we did bring this up very briefly on one of those episodes. Yeah, so dude, Witchers with guns, that would be, okay, so here's what I want. I want an MMO style game where you can play, or at least a massive multiplayer style game. Maybe not like an MMO necessarily, like, I'm not looking for World of Warcraft, but something where you can craft a very well, like, customized character, right? And then play with other people in the world. I think that would be really cool. Because then you can have, like, dwarf witchers, or, like, even weird combinations of stuff, like witchers that focus more on certain things than other things.
We kind of like, I mean, I haven't played it, so don't quote me on it, but like, I don't know, like kind of Elden Ring style.
So Elden Ring
have like a separation between like the story and then like you could play online with people, right?
Well, you can summon people into your world. There's a mod where you can just bring people in and play through the game. It's a little janky, but it works. But yeah, that would be like play through the story and then summon other people in to help you out, which could be cool. Like that would be fun. But I'm thinking something where you can just totally customize your character, level up in whatever direction you want to level up. If you want to be a Witcher that uses guns, go be a Witcher that uses guns. If you want to be a Witcher and you get some of this in like The Witcher 3, where you can focus more of your upgrade path on using signs than say swordplay, right? But something that really fleshes that out. Like what if you wanted to be like a mage Witcher? Go for it. Like why not expand that out in the universe? It's not like there are set boundaries and that couldn't work in the stories, because it totally could. And maybe that comes in a time after the period of, Geralt and Ciri. Maybe like we talked about on previous episodes, with the new conjunction, there's more monsters returning to the world. And so now you need Witchers doing different things in order to handle these new monsters.
I'm trying to think of like, and now a situation, because I know we fought water monsters like drowners and whatnot, like whatever minor. It's talking about the Crane School fighting like actual sea monsters, and like if the information that is out there that could mean possibilities for that game in a new area, there's like a massive ocean in between, or sea in between the continent and that land that we might be going to, right. Fighting like sea serpents thing. Yeah, I
mean, you got the stuff in Skellige in Witcher 3 where you're out on the boat and you fight some of the creatures that pop up on the boat and stuff. But yeah, can you imagine going out on like an actual ship and like fighting sea monsters? Like
it's like a Valheim or whatever.
Sure, or
played Valheim.
Or like Sea of Thieves. Like imagine a Sea of Thieves sized ship, and then a freaking Kraken shows up, and you got to take the Kraken down. Like that would be pretty cool.
I just sail away from the Krakens every time I see
it. Yeah, but like, what if
still move?
What if you're supposed to hunt them down though? Like that's the idea, right?
Yeah, that would be a pain. And I could play a full crew of 4 people trying to fight a Kraken, and they still mess it up. So like.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be designed around a different style of gameplay and whatever. But like maybe you swim down, maybe you take a potion that allows for water breathing. You swim down in the water, and you ram a spear up the Kraken's snout or something and kill it. Who knows?
I honestly thought you were going to say butt.
Up his butt. That would work too. I mean, the butt is the weak point of every creature.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm. You die if you get stabbed in the butt, or you should. Every game should be designed in a way where if you get stabbed in the butt, you die.
I mean,
it only makes sense.
It does make it does make sense. I mean, even if you don't die, I feel like you really wish you had.
Right. Yeah. Like nobody wants to be stabbed in the butt.
I don't want to go on with this anymore. Right. I want to go.
I mean, you still have to have bowel movements, and with a stabbed butt, you don't want to have any bowel movements. It just makes life miserable. Like.
That's true.
That's my theory. All right. One last point. Rob the Princess saying, imagine if there was a school that focused on unarmed or wrestling combat. That would be risky AF, but very badass. What do you think about that? Like, I'm going to wrestle this Leshen.
But like,
That seems very risky. It seems like you have a sword for a reason because you don't actually have to touch it with your own fleshy bits.
I was like trying to think like how because like most monsters you need the silver
yeah.
That makes me think.
I mean, you could have gauntlets or something that have silver spikes on them, right?
That makes me think of freaking Geralt's like brass or silver knuckles that he has fighting the Striga.
Right. Like what if you for that school, you would want to be fully covered in some form of armor to really keep your skin safe. But then silver knuckles. Ooh.
Silver knuckles or
not relying on weapons.
That's silver spiked armor, I guess, for either grappling or whatever.
Right. Have you seen that old picture of the bear hunting suit from Russia that goes around online every so often? It's like a full body covered black suit with all of these spikes sticking out of it. So if you're going to go fight a bear, it's going to stab itself if it even tries to hit you.
I was like, what would that be like? Try to think of a school that would, or an animal that fits that.
The porcupine.
A porcupine?
Yeah, the school of the porcupine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
A bunch of little spikes sticking out. I don't know. You know what you're also ridiculous is if anybody at CD Projekt Red listens to our show and takes these ideas and works them into a game and we can be like, oh my God, we came up with that. That would be amazing.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think because also how hard some of the we have the missions in the games where you go around and you have to you do the fist fights or whatever.
Yeah.
I think how difficult it is for Geralt to fist fight a human. Imagine him trying to fist fight a fiend. What are you gonna do, dude?
It's like a jujitsu school or something. Yeah.
Had enough.
Keep punching the fiend in the face. Or a ghost.
Oh man.
Just wrestling with a ghost.
Do that? Cast Erded.
Yeah, it slows down. You gotta slow everything down.
Imagine how many monsters would just pause and be like, "Did you
just punch me?
Did you just punch me? I'm gonna leave now. I don't want to do this anymore."
Okay, no. Yeah, School of the Badger, School of the Wolverine. There you go. All right. Well, that's our episode about dwarves and other stuff. Toasty, you got anything going on you want to share before we head out?
Yeah. Follow us with your Lorecast on Twitter. Go check out Cyberpunk. I think episode 3 for season 2 is coming out soon. I can't remember what their day is. We got some Patreon exclusive content over there. If you wanted to check that out, over there is Cyberpunk, not
your Cyberpunk show. Yeah.
And coming out there, some very silly stuff where we, as our Cyberpunk characters, pretend or try to play D&D, and don't know what the hell we're doing. It was great. I laughed and cried 3 times. So, and other than that, I don't.
Nothing else.
Is anything else?
Cool.
I see people asking questions in the Discord. So if you want to ask questions in there or whatever, I will try to get to them. If you're curious about anything or speculation or anything, I know we got Blood Origin coming up at the end of this year. So, I'm sure that'll start ramping up as far as talks when we get a bit closer to that.
I hear they've reduced the number of episodes, which I hope doesn't mean that the show is going to be terrible. I hope what that means is they got rid of the kind of middling stuff and they left the really good stuff.
They left out the filler.
They got rid of, some of the filler. And so instead of I think it was 8, they're down to 6 or something like that. So instead of getting 8 episodes and some of them feel just kind of drawn out and too long, that we end up with just 6 awesome episodes. I hope that's what that means.
I know they're generally really long. It's I know even with 6 episodes, it's still like 8 because of how long, because they're normally hour plus generally or around that mark. So, and of course with no commercials. So
it's each one feels like a little movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a good chunk there. I mean, unless they're super long. I mean, I watched the premiere of House of Dragons. That
Yeah.
episode was nearly 2 hours long.
Yeah,
I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, it's a premiere episode. I think they're also trying to make up for the negative sentiment of the end of Game of Thrones in the last 2 seasons of that. So,
Man.
yeah, they're fighting uphill on that one. But I saw that too. I thought it was pretty cool.
I thought it was gruesome.
Yeah.
Gruesome.
Yeah, but that's typical of the whole Game of Thrones thing, right?
But like that was like, I didn't have to cover my eyes during any part of Game of Thrones. Like that episode, I was like,
the pregnancy thing.
yeah, that was.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I've witnessed the birth of 2 of my children firsthand, and I don't know. I think after you go through that, it's kind of like, yeah, okay. I mean, it definitely made me go, ugh, but I've kind of been there.
It was just.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the vibe of it. Maybe it was just the vibe.
Oh, it was dark. It was dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to hear what you think about any of this stuff. Come join us on the Discord. We'd love to chat with you guys. Also, come join me on my Twitch channel. I'm streaming almost every day. I'm streaming as often as I can. The regular times are the ones that I'm definitely sticking to, if you want to make sure you can catch a stream, are in the afternoons on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So that's like 1 or 2 p.m. I start Eastern time, my time. So it might be right around lunch for you. So come hang out with me for that. You can always join us for the live shows, which are usually on Monday nights. I'll be streaming on other evening nights as well. But I just, I want to get to know you guys. This is a thing. I think this is a good location to have a central point for us all to get together and chat and hang out. So come hang out. It'll be lots of fun. All right. That's what we got for this week, guys. Until next week.
Stay safe on the path.
We'll see you guys later. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Witcher Lorecast. We'd love to hear about your experiences with the games and the books and the TV series and all your thoughts on everything. Please check out the Robots Radio Discord and follow us on Twitter at Witcher Lorecast.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.